welcome to this particular episode of the Nigeria Ombudsman channel, and this episode is focused on the just concluded Kenya elections. I would say that the elections has been quite an interesting one, and the chairman of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission of Kenya, Wafula Chebukati, declared William Samuel Ruto as the winner of the elections with 50.49%, while the runner-up was declared as Raila Odinga, having 48.89%. Wahija David Nwari scored less than 1%, just like Wajakoya George. This was quite an interesting election because we have seen a lot of drama surrounding it. First, it was the supporters of Raila Odinga basically creating a crisis situation within the hall where the results were declared. They basically, some of them were turning the tables and trying to fight people before the security agents came in to basically calm the situation. We have also seen that 4 out of the 7 electoral commissioners, led by the deputy commissioner for the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Juliana Cherera, basically distanced themselves from the results. In Cherera's words, she said that the result of this phase was vague, and because of that, they could not take ownership of the results. And in the words of Cherera, Mr. Chebukati's aggregation was wrong because as follows, Raila Odinga had 48.85%, William Ruto 50.49%, and Wahija Nwari 0.27%, Wajakoya 0.44%. And in our own words, this sums up to a total of 100.01%, and 0.01% translates to approximately 142,000 votes, which makes a significant difference in the final votes when we look at the total number of voters in the elections. However, it is clear that Cherera's calculation was wrong because the actual number of 0.01% is 100 of the figures that she gave of 142,000 votes. That is to say, 0.01% is actually 1,420 votes, and Cherera has actually become a joke in the last couple of days in the social media because of these very wrong calculations. And I think that Cherera and her colleagues did really go too fast in addressing the media without having the right figures. And even if the vote difference was 142,000 as she projected, the difference between Ruto's votes and Odinga's votes, that is the votes that both of them polled, the difference, because we know that Ruto had 7,176,141 votes, and Odinga polled 6,942,930 votes. So if we subtract these figures, the the difference is 233,211 votes. So Ruto basically had a superior figure of 233,211 votes. If we tallied the both figures that they polled. So at the end of the day, Ruto will still have won. We know that there were challenges in these elections, but no doubt the electoral commissioner Mr. Chibukati was transparent, because all the figures were fed into the IEBC database, and people, the press and other people were given access to see these figures as they were coming in from the various constituencies. If Mr. Odinga still challenges the figures, I think the best thing to do is to call for an independent organization that has experience in vote counting, and let them come in to basically help them in the process. I want to appeal to Odinga, because I know that Mr. Odinga has, this is his 5th attempt at the presidency. He contested in 1997, 2007, 2013, and 2017. And he thought that this would be the one that would bring in what he wanted. But unfortunately, it has not gone that way. But I appeal to him that he should call his supporters to order. Already, just when the results were released on the 16th, we saw already burning of tires and crisis in some parts of Kisumu, which is Odinga's one of Odinga's stronghold. We also saw crisis also brewing up in some parts of Nairobi. I want to say that every Kenyan life matters, and Odinga should know that his own ambition and the ambition of any Kenyan does not supersede the value of the life of a single individual. So I want to appeal to him to call his supporters to order for the sake of the people who are already suffering. We see that the whole world has just gone over the COVID crisis, and now they are dealing with the economic fallout of both the COVID crisis and the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. We do not see a situation that played out in 2007, where over 1,200 Kenyans lost their lives. We don't want to see that situation happen again, because to lose over 1,200 people, those were the ones that were recorded. It's humongous. So I pray that Mr. Odinga should, as he has gone to court now, he should allow the judicial process follow through. So please, Mr. Odinga, call your supporters to order so that things can follow the due process. We also saw in 2007, over 500,000 people basically moved because they envisaged the post-election violence that was going to come. And so businesses were put on hold. People were, in a way, already in trauma because of the crisis they were anticipating. And we know that it was not a nice scene of what really happened after that particular elections in 2007. So I pray that is not what is going to follow this time. For Ruto, I want to say that if we look at this particular Kenya elections, there were several factors that worked for Ruto. The first one, Ruto was able to connect with Kenyans, the everyday Kenyan, because his slogan was hustlers versus the elite. It is funny because Ruto himself is an elite. He's been vice president for almost 10 years now. But however, he was able to sell his story of his rise from grass to grace to the people. He basically depicted himself as a hustler who has succeeded in moving through the ranks to where he is today. He sold his story of how he was out there struggling on the streets and being able to, at the end, get to where he is today. I understand he's one of the biggest grain farmers in Kenya. And so he's also been able to build a business for himself apart from his entry into politics. He got into politics about 20 years ago, moving through the ranks in UDA, through the youth wing, and now he took a shot at the presidency and he's been declared the winner. So that connection to the people, in a way, made the difference. He was also able to show how prices of ordinary foodstuff had risen within such a short period. And so people were able to connect with this. And also, against the trend we have seen previously in Kenyan politics, the trend of ethnicity as a factor in politics. We have seen that used very much in previous elections, just as we have seen in other parts of Africa. We know that Raila Odinga is Luo from the Kisumu area, and William Ruto is Kalenji from the Rift Valley area. But we have seen them use this very much before. But now, Ruto was smart enough to depart from that and use the economic factor towards projecting himself. He also basically presented himself, as I said before, to the people because he now presented himself as one of them, because he has been through where they were, whereas the Odingas and the Kenyatas, they were the elites. They have come from a pampered background. So that connected him, that made him to have an appeal with the people. And against the previous trend of ethnicity, the Ruto basically we see with his push through the economic front, selling himself as one of the hustlers, he was able to eat into some of Odinga's strongholds. He was also able to eat into Uhuru Kenyatta's stronghold of Mount Kenya, even winning in that particular constituency. He won with a landslide in that particular place. And for Kenyatta, we know that Ruto and Kenyatta had a pact. And the pact was that Ruto will support Uhuru Kenyatta while he took his shot at the presidency. And his support also facilitated Uhuru's victory in the two elections that he ran for. And because of that pact, we have also seen that there were people during these elections who felt slighted because they felt that Uhuru had turned his back on Ruto, despite the pact that he had in the previous elections. So some of them were not happy with that. And also, in Uhuru's own words, he turned his back against Ruto because he likened Ruto to a co-driver who, while the driver was busy steering the wheel, he was throwing things out of the vehicle. But one would want to ask, if the co-driver was throwing what should have been a damage to the people within the vehicle, that would not be a problem. But that's just on the side. But only Kenyatta can really tell what went on. But one of the things that has been projected very much against Ruto is corruption. There are three things that were projected against him. Corruption, he has been said to have been high-handed, and also to have been involved in land grabbing. These three things, I would say they are serious. But like we know, I would say that over 80% or even 85% of politicians in Africa are corrupt. I will say that. But that is not to make an excuse for Ruto. So whatever has been raised against him, he should know that being now the president-elect, it is time for him to, if he had been involved in those things, to begin to retrace himself from those and begin to project himself as somebody who is trustworthy, accountable, and transparent to the people, and also who is a fair person, who is fair to the people, a person who is just to the people, because that is what leadership, these are part of what leadership is all about. Also, Uhuru openly supporting Odinga, who was seen as an arch rival, also worked against Odinga to some extent, because there are people who felt that something fishy had gone on. And so because of that, they shifted alliance from Odinga to Ruto. And because of this, we saw that Ruto basically had the advantage. But in fairness, we have to say that to be able to bring all this to a peaceful end, Mr. Raila Odinga should please pursue this judicial process he has initiated and see to a conclusive end, so that at the end of the day, things will go well for the people of Kenya and Kenya as a nation. But I'm also happy that the United States have stepped in as part of peace moves. The U.S. A U.S. delegation of legislators have visited Kenya already, led by Chris Coons, the senator from Delaware. They have been already to visit the president-elect, William Ruto, Raila Odinga, and also the incumbent president, Uhuru Kenyatta. All these moves are basically to ensure that there's peace and that things do not degenerate as we had seen in previous elections. So I really want to say thank you to the United States and other parties that have been involved in trying to ensure that the peace do not degenerate and the transition process move on accordingly. I know that there have also been attempts to make this basically go to a second round of voting, but I really don't think that will be the case. So I say congratulations to William Ruto. I wish you all the best, and I pray that however it goes, whoever the court declares the winner at the end of the day will be able to lead the people and take Kenya to higher grounds. Again, I say congratulations to Mr. Ruto, and to my Kenyan brothers and my sisters, I say karibu, and hope to see you all in my next video. May God bless you.